Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, presented by Cattle, Season 4, Episode 31. I'm Michael Loblaw.
And I'm the Food Professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our guest on this episode is Chamali Kodikara. She is a graduate research scientist student with the Department of Food and Human Nutritional Sciences, the wonderful University of Manitoba. Papers published already, and now an IFTSA Board of Directors member. Sylvain, after talking to Chamali, I get why she's a big deal in her field. She's pretty amazing. But what's the big deal about being on the board of the IFTSA, and what is that?
Well, so I'm the editor of the Trends in Food Science and Technology journal, which is the number one food science journal in the world. And let me tell you, if you want to get good authors, if you want to get good research in your journal, you have to go to the IFT conference in July every year in Chicago. It's a massive organization. They're very influential politically and scientifically as well. When it comes to food science, that's the place you want to be. And Chamali was actually appointed to be on that student board, and I was glad that you accepted her to be our guest this week. It is the Food Professor Podcast, so once in a while we got to go academic.
A little bit academic. Anyway, it's a wonderful interview. We'll get to that later. I want to tell you a quick couple of things about my Texas barbecue.
Yes.
So last time we spoke, I was sitting
for listeners, Michael right now is wearing a cap, a beautiful cap, Interstellar barbecue. So we were in Dallas, and then Steve Dennis and I went from Dallas to Waco to Austin to Lockhart, and I'll just say, the barbecue there is a whole other level. And we went to the two ranked by Texas Monthly, which is the Bible of these things, ranked number 1 and 2 in Texas, which obviously is a big deal. The first one, Interstellar, if you ever get to go, it's in Austin. And the second one was Goldie's. And I met one of the owners, and we were hanging out. But you got to be prepared to wait. So you could get into an average, which is still quite spectacular, barbecue place and just walk right in, like in the afternoon. But these places, hour and a half, 2 hours in line. Oh my God. Wow.
And I'm not typically a waiting guy. So now my wife says, that's great. We can go to all kinds of things and you'll wait in line. No.
Oh yeah.
That's not the
1
lesson
hour
here.
Like for barbecue. That's a long time to wait.
Yeah. But it was spectacular. If anybody has any inclination or love of barbecue, go to Austin and enjoy that city and enjoy the barbecue. So that's great. That's my quick feedback. All right, let's get into the news. So today's a kind of an interesting day. We're recording this May 1st. It'll be playing May 2nd. Let's talk about grocery. Let's talk about Loblaws. Let's talk about what's going on. So Loblaw's put out some numbers that were actually quite good today in terms of, their profit seems to be going up. People seem to be choosing them more often. Of course, Loblaw's is a very broad-based business with Shoppers Drug Mart, so there's a lot of moving parts to that. I haven't pulled it apart yet. Now, of course, there's this thing going on between, what is it, Boycott, Loblaws. You're involved. You wrote a great op-ed. Why don't you start by talking about your thesis behind the op-ed that you wrote around the missed opportunity of what's happening today?
Well, first of all, I want to comment briefly on the results this morning, and frankly, I think they were solid results. Income is up, profits are up, dividends are up as well. But I did notice one thing: baskets are smaller. So Loblaws was able to increase prices while volume is dropping, and frankly, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the market is retreating a little bit, and they're more careful with their dollars when they spend at the grocery store, essentially. So Loblaws, despite what's happening with the market being more frugal, actually did fairly well, which really, I think, surprised a few people. But overall, good results. Now, of course, the boycott itself is certainly an issue. This particular group has been making a lot of noise since October of 2023. I actually thought that perhaps Q1 would have been impacted financially by this particular group, for Loblaws in particular, and there was no evidence of that today at all. The one thing that I am concerned about with this particular boycott, and frankly, I'm all for democracy, and I think everyone who wants to boycott a company is allowed to, should
or
be
make
allowed
choices,
to.
right? Everyone can
That's
make
right.
choices. And it's funny because one of the criticisms of grocery isn't enough choice. That may be true in some small towns, but by and large, there's lots of choice. We can name
lots
off
of choice
groceries.
as well.
Yeah.
So boycotting is fine as long as you have a logical rationale. And I do fail to see logic and coherence in what they're trying to achieve right now. To be honest, if you understand the history of food distribution in Canada the last 30 years, you will understand that Loblaw's current status is a product of an American invasion led by two companies, Walmart and Costco. The last 30 years, Metro, Sobeys, and Loblaws, all of them readjusted their market positioning by acquiring to compete against these two American mammoths. And so I do wonder why they're aiming at one particular grocer, which controls 29% of the market, which is not even a third, really. And so if you really want to make a message, if you really want to make this boycott worthwhile, make sure it is coherent and logical. And right now, I fail to see any logic.
It may be the case that some of the folks listening don't even know that there's some kind of boycott going on because it's kind of a Reddit thing I'm not sure I'd call it a subculture, but it comes out. I think you're getting a bunch of calls from reporters now who are kind of cluing in that there's this thing going on in the universe where some people are just mad at Loblaws, some people are mad at groceries, and some people say, they're still back talking about.
Yeah, but they're mad for what?
For what? I mean, anyway, I think
like profiteering. Well, show me the evidence. If you actually look at, if you are accusing Loblaws of profiteering, show us the evidence. There's just no evidence of that. Again, today, looking at financial results, same-store food sales are up 3.4%, which is about where food inflation was during the first quarter. And so that's one thing. Gross margins, again, similar to what we've seen in the last 5 years. So those are metrics you want to basically pay attention to in order to see whether or not there is gouging going on, but there's none of it. In my view, I would say this. I mean, if you really believe in boycotts, which I don't, you would probably consider boycotting all big box stores and focus on independent grocers, perhaps. But still, I think the boycott itself is a missed opportunity to really engage with Canadians and explaining to them, educating them in terms of what the real problems are in the food industry, because they are problems. You and I, we've been talking about these problems for years now.
Well, since
they are issues that need to be addressed.
The podcast is based on it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And they are issues that need to be addressed. And is Loblaw part of the problem? Of course. But right now, and this is what I said to one CBC reporter, which I'm very thankful for, because she took the time to really understand what was going on. And what I said to her, the boycott is simplifying what I consider to be a much complicated, greater problem in the industry.
It's a great discussion. We'll see where it goes. I mean, it's the month of May. Let's see how it resonates in the broader population.
Do you think it's going to make much of a difference?
I don't think so. I mean, there's no question, I think, in my mind, that grocers as an industry are having a reputational moment. A reputation, if not a reputational crisis, a reputational moment. And I think it articulates itself from in-store theft, from, hey, I don't care about these guys. So I think that is, that to me is an issue. I'm not sure how they can come together and start as an industry to kind of start addressing it. We hire people in your community. We put people through school. They hire millions of Canadians, right? So, so we'll see where it evolves, and in some ways, and you've been saying this for many, many months, food prices are coming. Well, at least the inflation rate is easing. It doesn't mean necessarily food prices are coming down universally, but they are in some categories. So these things are kind of starting.
Actually, we are seeing it in our data for the month of April. So I did get the question today a couple of times: will the boycott work? And my answer was pretty simple. The success of the boycott is irrelevant because food prices are already dropping. For some categories, prices are dropping.
All right. Well, let's talk about more things in the news. So we mentioned this a while ago. This bird flu virus discovered in the lungs of a U.S. dairy cow. I don't think you were too upset about it, but it does seem to be rapidly spreading. And scientists are now warning this form of avian influenza is more widespread than we thought, moving faster. Now, is this a situation where cows are going to have to start wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart? How worried should we be about these news reports about the dairy industry, which inevitably, will come?
Well, it's like COVID, right? If you're looking, you'll find. I mean, that's basically what's going on with veterinarians and the herd in the United States. The one thing that I thought was very interesting is that not only they believe now that it's spreading faster and it's actually out there more. Some scientists actually believe it's been around for a while already.
Oh, interesting.
Like we're talking years, 5 years ago. Yeah. So this is, and frankly, I wasn't surprised by that. So again, we need to remind our listeners that no cows have died. No humans have died. Just mild symptoms for humans. It is still not considered a food safety issue with pasteurization. So they're trying to contain the problem, the contagion, if you will, through science. So they're testing. They're doing the right things. And of course, we learned earlier this week that Colombia actually was closing its borders on some products coming from the U.S. I'm actually a little bit, to be honest with you, Michael, I'm a little bit surprised that Canada hasn't really reacted to what was going on in the U.S., given our position around dairy in Canada. I mean, Canada doesn't stand to lose anything by saying to Canadians, you know what, we're closing the border against America. We're taking care of you.
Let's have the phrase "an abundance of caution" used.
That's right. Exactly. I was expecting that like weeks ago, and nothing has happened because from a trade perspective, you got nothing to lose. You're not going to penalize consumers. We're not importing barely anything from the U.S.
Small percentages. Yeah.
All
right. Well, let's keep a close eye on that. Let's talk about McDonald's. We talked about McDonald's every now and then. They had a rare miss. Global comparable sales growth. This is from Bloomberg, slid for the fourth straight quarter to 1.9%. With I think the analysts were thinking it would be 3.5% rise. So, what do you think's going on with McDonald's? They say that consumers are becoming more discriminating with every dollar they spend, and maybe this, it's not just California, but the price of the Big Mac, the price of beef. What do you make of what's going on at McDonald's?
It's interesting. Of course, it's a rare miss, so that means, and you know this, Michael, someone is going to lose his job. So
spending more. I think Savannah. I think they call that spending more time with the family. By the way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, or early retirement. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, anyways, it is a rare miss, but I honestly, I mean, would you bet against McDonald's? Like, really?
No. But, even the big can fall. I mean, they're a very well-run organization. They're no Subway, for example. But I think it highlights the changing nature of the QSR business.
Absolutely.
And the pressures on affordability, even at McDonald's, which is considered.
We're expecting. I'm expecting them to adapt, and they'll actually make some changes, and we'll move on. And of course, with what's going on with the market right now, the split between service and retail is still a work in progress. And but I do believe that fast food stands to do very well over the next little while.
Just before we get to our interview with Chamali, Shake Shack. Are you a fan of Shake Shack? I had one in Dallas. It was my first Shake Shack shake. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
Shake Shack is coming to Canada finally, the fast food company.
And they actually found a spot for their first stores, right? For their first store in Toronto, right?
That's right. Yonge-Dundas Square in what used to be, if you're familiar with that area, used to be the Adidas flagship store, which moved over.
But it's a really happening. That's
5,500 square feet. 5,500 square feet. I mean, it's a big. So it's going to be a flagship, a real flagship, real experience store. So if you're a Shake Shack fan, I'm sure this will be the first.
I like that corner. I mean, it's really it's like the closest thing you can get to New York in Toronto.
Yeah, it's very vibrant and lots of fun stuff going on there. This will add more vibrancy, and It's very fun. So congratulations to the folks at Shake Shack. All right, now just before we get to our great interview with Chamali, let's hear from our wonderful presenting sponsor, Cattle. Ever feel like the world of ratings and reviews needed a superhero? Well, enter Cattle, the caped crusader with Canada's largest, most diverse, and daily active consumer panels. That's right, Cattle is not your average podcast sponsor. So why choose Cattle? Because Cattle excels in consumer insights from your consumer while also blazing trails in the realm of ratings and reviews, pioneering the future landscape of user-generated content. Beyond the valuable syndicated receipt data, they stand as unparalleled collector of reviews at scale, irrespective of category or price point. A testament to their impact, partnerships with giants like Walmart, Canadian Tire, and more. Visit AskCattle.com now for an exclusive The Food Professor podcast listener discount on your first review or research campaign today. That's AskCattle.com.
All right, today we are joined by Chamali Kodikara, a brilliant scholar from Manitoba. Welcome to the podcast and congratulations on your election to the Board of Directors of the Institute of Food Technologists Student Association. It's a global organization, very well recognized. So congratulations to you. Could you tell us more about yourself and why you got interested into the food industry?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm Chamali Kodikara, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Manitoba, Canada. And I recently completed my master's, and I'm starting my PhD on Wednesday, which is exciting.
Yeah, lots going on, eh?
Yeah, I did my master's in food science with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, and I'm starting my PhD with Canadian Grain Commission. So it's going to be different fields, different research, and again within the same food industry. And why I like food industry, it's simply because I found it really interesting because of I feel it's kind of intersection of science. It has innovation, and it also affects for the human well-being. And in addition to that, I'm from Sri Lanka, originally from Sri Lanka. So I witnessed the first-hand importance of agriculture and food production in sustaining communities and promoting health. And when I came to Canada, I realized how it is important, especially when I started my academic journey with the food science at University of Manitoba. And when I joined IFT, I realized how it is important, and it made me really curious to learn more about food industry. And yeah, that's basically it. And I'm still curious about the food industry. I have a lot to learn.
Yeah. So, what do you expect in terms of your responsibilities on that particular board? I know you've been engaged with IFT, but so what are you going to be doing basically as a board member?
Regarding the IFTSA, I'm really fortunate to be a board of member at IFTSA. So I'm going to volunteer or serve as vice president of competitions. In there, I have to organize and work with different chairs because in IFTSA we have different competitions, research competitions, leadership awards competitions, and many more. I think more than 7 or 8 competitions, which are specifically for students. So what I'm planning to do is I'm going to work with different chairs and going to act as the person who is who is supposed to work with students, and then get more connections worldwide, because IFT it's not only for US or Canada, but it's a global organization. So we are planning to get more international representation for the competitions, and for sure the competitions, they are going to give a lot of awards for the students, and then of course students will get an opportunity to come and join IFT First, which is going to hold in July in Chicago this year. So yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
things are going on. Yeah, that's going to be my duty as vice president of competitions.
I guess for those who don't know about or anything about IFT, could you tell our audience what is IFT and how influential IFT actually is in food science?
Oh yeah, sure. So this Institute of Food Technology, it's a global organization and it has a huge role in advancing the food industry by fostering collaboration, innovation, and knowledge exchange among food scientists, technologies, professionals worldwide. So if I talk about IFT, last year I went to IFT first. It was my first time to go
Oh, it
there.
was your first time in
Yeah, it
Chicago.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my first time in Chicago. A lot
It's
of
pretty
people were
impressive,
there.
eh?
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
big, and you can meet a lot of professional like industry, academia. And as a student, I found it really interesting to see and talk with those professionals because it's not just like restricted into like one particular country. I met like people from India, like Asian countries, European countries, and North American, like all the people are there, so you know what's going to happen or what is happening right now in the food industry. So I think it's a great platform if you're really passionate about food science and food industry.
That's great. Now, you, as a researcher, you're involved with bioactive compounds in cane prairie berries. Like, why did you focus on those specific berries in particular?
Uh, it was really interesting to do my master's project at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And at this moment, I would like to thank my supervisors, Dr. Nandika Bandara and Dr. Champa Vijayakon. She's from Dr. Vijayakon, and she's from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, who gave me the opportunity to like work on this project. And in there, I worked on different berry types, more than 14 different wild berry types grown in Manitoba. So even I didn't know those berry types before. It was my first time to like try those berries. They were really tasty, and then we wanted to identify the potential of these berries as functional food simply because in the commercial markets we have only few different types of berries like blueberries, raspberries, and so on. But I'm not sure whether you have seen like Saskatoon berries, chalk cherries, chalk berries, and so on. So we wanted to identify the potential of these underutilized berries, which are grown in prairies, especially in Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. So we wanted to identify the potential simply because they are underutilized. So I we found different types of phenolic compounds, fatty acids, terpenes, which are bioactive compounds, which has the ability to prevent diseases like cardiovascular diseases. So we
Yes.
wanted to like identify the potential. Then because I did this research in Canadian Center for Agri-Food Research in Health and Medicine, which is kind of I think it's kind of intersection because food industry we cannot like separate it from the other industry because food is always connected to human health, right? So we wanted to identify the compounds, and then we wanted to do some test on that, and future research should be done to see how these berries can be utilized for human health because they have a lot of different bioactive compounds which are not known. So we found those, so we have the future for those underutilized berries. And also for the commercial market, like if they can introduce those berries,
Mm.
that's going to be awesome. Especially the Saskatoon berries. We found like some orchards, they are growing Saskatoon berries, but they are not commercially available.
Mm.
They have really good number of bioactive compounds. They have different health benefits. I mean, the compounds that can be used to treat different diseases in humans. So That's
Wow.
what we did. Yeah.
Interesting.
Altogether, we found 124 compounds.
124.
Yes.
Wow.
It's a lot.
It's a real treat to have you on the podcast because you're a burgeoning scientist and well accomplished, and you're so passionate about these prairie berries that they can do so many things. Now, let's step back a little bit and talk about the challenges that food scientists. You're going to be a food scientist. What challenges do food scientists have today? I mean, funding is one thing, and from an educational perspective, there was some good news in the recent federal budget about funding for graduate students. That's helpful. But as you think about being a food scientist, what are the challenges? And then talk about how your work at the Canadian Centre for Agri-Food Research in Health and Medicine kind of addresses those. How do you think of that, and how do you tie those together?
As a student, what I felt was one of the biggest challenges facing food scientists today is, I think, addressing the complex interplay between food production, nutrition, and health outcomes. Because when we talk about food science, sometimes it's only food science, but they don't think beyond that, how it's going to connect to the other, like health or nutrition. I think that's the most challenging part. But since I've worked in a Canadian Centre for Agri-Food Research in Health and Medicine, most of my other supervisors, they also encourage even the students to think about the other aspects as well. So we shouldn't stop by the food science. It's not that enough to identify the compounds, but we should do the future research. I mean, you should do animal trials, human trials, and we should see how this food can be effectively used for the other other segments. And
Like
I think my
holistic
work
health,
my work at the CCAM or the Canadian Centre, I think, tackles this challenge because they have all these interdisciplinary research. They find the compounds, then they do the animal trials, clinical trials, and they have research collaborations. I think collaboration is another important part. If you're a food scientist, then it's good to collaborate with the nutritionist. Then we
collaborate
can
and publish.
That's true.
I guess the way you do that is joining these kind of boards and then publishing. Let's talk about the opposite side of that coin. Let's talk about the biggest opportunity. So you're looking at Canadian prairie berries, and I've been hearing about nutraceuticals and nutritional food. It's a big trend when you talk to grocers. What in the agricultural sector, from your science perspective and what do you think the biggest opportunities for innovation are?
I think as the innovations, I think they are particularly related to health and nutrition, and because consumers they increasingly prioritize their wellness and sustainability, and also there is a growing demand for functional food. And if you go to IFT first, then you will be able to see so many different types of plant-based alternatives. As protein, so that's really trending topic these days. And
are we rediscovering something that people long ago learned? I mean, you come from a country that has tremendous innovation and wisdom. Are we rediscovering this wisdom in your work, do you think?
I think so, because I mean, in the past, they've ate cereals, grains, and all those, but then I moved to meat-based product. But now again, they are going back to plant-based alternatives. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. I think and also personalized nutritional solutions.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Van, should we get into a debate about ultra processed food now, or should we wait to do that
later? That's a good point. I mean, it is an open debate, and lots of people do question the processing behind some of the food that they eat, but maybe not for today. Yeah.
Okay. One last question, and then I'll pass the microphone back to Sylvain. You're an accomplished student about to start your PhD tomorrow. If students are listening to this, what advice do you give to students who are considering a career in food science and technology?
I think it's the curiosity for the subject, I would say, and also pursue diverse learning experiences, and also please actively engage with industry professionals and mentors, because I know, like, as a graduate student, we have our own project. But, and also we have a limited time, but within that limited time, if we can just like go beyond our research, and if we can explore more, I think that's where we can learn more. As a student, I was always curious about finding new things, reading about stuff, and IFT for sure like helped me a lot to improve my knowledge and to talk with other people. I think that's another best way to like improve our knowledge. And if you are in the field of food science, just talk with other people, make collaborations, just networking, and don't just like restrict into your own research. For sure, like you have to finish and get it done, otherwise you will be in a problem. But within that
That's a
time,
whole other bit of problem,
yeah,
right? So you still got to
yeah,
finish. You still got to publish. Still got to collaborate, right?
yeah,
So
still going, because like I'm happy and proud to say I've published, like I have like altogether 4 papers for my masters for within 2 years. So I accomplished that thing apart from my leadership and other things. So if you have the passion, and if you really want to do something, I think that's possible.
So, Chamali, what are your expectations for your PhD? So you're starting a PhD now, and so and the doctoral journey is very different than at the master's level. So what are your expectations for the next few years as a junior researcher?
Yeah, so I know it's going to, because compared to my master's project, it's going to be totally different. For my PhD, I'm going to work on wheat alkaloids under Dr. Cheryl Titlemere in Canadian Grain Commission. So the field, even if it's in the same food science field, the research is going to be different. So I have the same curiosity to learn and to complete my project, and also I would like to engage with some other things like IFTSA for sure. I have another new responsibilities coming up. So apart from those, I am planning to like finish it at least within 3.5 years, publish, get it done, and engage with other things as well at the same time.
That's great, Shamali. Listen, very inspiring. Very few Canadians have actually reached that level at IFT, and we want to congratulate you and thank you for joining us today on the Food Professor podcast.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm really honored and lucky to be here. Thanks for the opportunity again.
Where are you? You sound different. You're in Saskatchewan, or you were in Newfoundland? Where are you today?
I was in Newfoundland. Now I'm in Regina, Saskatchewan. Yes,
and
enjoying.
You're a big fan of that province. What brings you back? What brings you back?
I am. So basically, they invited me back as keynote for the Levine dinner. It's an annual event, so they actually invite people from key business folks. I'm the first academic to be a keynote for that particular dinner, and of course they raised money for a good cause, and they'd asked me what cause I would want to support, and I did mention that the Regina Food Bank would be an appropriate cause to select, and so we're raising money to support the food bank right here. And I actually visited the food bank yesterday, and they're actually building a new food hub. I got to tell you, Michael, that food hub looks very much like a regular grocery store. So you walk in as a person who needs help, and you basically roam around the food bank, but it's like a grocery store, and you grab what you need. The first time, of course, you're assisted by a volunteer, of course.
Here's how it works, kind of thing.
This is how it works, and but it's well done. And frankly, I mean, the way that they've designed the store is just like you would want. They're trying to normalize food insecurity in a way. So once people get to a different place, a job, they feel that they've moved on, and they can actually go to a regular grocery store, and the change is not that different. So great model. So we're raising money for that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, safe travels with that. Last thing I wanted to talk about in Quebec. Are you a fan of a bespoke gins and micro distillery product from Quebec. So apparently, over the last number of years, there's almost 200 homegrown products on the stores of the Quebec Liquor Board shelves, and now they've culled them down to about 70, something like that. So the industry's in a bit of a turmoil. Now, what they are saying, some are saying, well, it's a chicken or egg thing. You didn't promote it enough because the Quebec Liquor Board, you're saying it's not selling enough. But it does feel a little bit like, they're going with the withdrawal of 150, 200 lower selling items. The SAQ currently stocks 600 Quebec spirits. Yeah. It just feels like a crowded market. Do we really need 300 different types of gins? I'm a big gin fan. What do you make of this? Is it a rebalancing of the market? How do you feel about this kind of culling?
Well, it's the paradox of choice, eh? So basically, if you offer too much choice, then all of a sudden you confuse the market, and then they just walk away without anything in their hands. So I think that's kind of the calculation that they actually done, looking at what people are buying, and if you confuse the hell out of consumers, you're not accomplishing anything. So I think that's there's a lot of that going on right now.
You and I will be together actually in pretty soon,
2
right?
weeks.
It's May. Oh my God, it's May. So 2 weeks we'll be together. I just kind of wrote up my description for my panel, Canada's Retail and Brand Innovation Opportunity, the Challenge of Being Remarkable. So that's what I'm going to be talking about.
And I got a theme while you're traveling with Steve.
Well, I got a blockbuster panel. I've got folks from industry, I've got retailers, and I've got the associations on the brand side and the retail side. So run, don't walk if you're going to Seattle, and who isn't going to Seattle and Montreal, and come see me. And there's a whole segment. You'll be on stage, and our friend Carl Boutet is going to be there as well. He just did a post. He's talking about retail technology, so it's going to be fantastic. So run, don't walk to Seattle and Montreal on the 15th, I think, mid-month.
15th to 17th of May.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. You've got. I can hear the laughing in the background. I think they keep bringing you rye.
You can actually hear it.
People are getting jovial. It's a little later in the evening.
That's right. Yeah.
Saskatchewan rye.
The Maple Leafs are not playing tonight, so.
All right, let's leave it there. I'm Michael Loblaw, media entrepreneur, consumer growth advocate, podcaster, and a bunch of other things. And you are?
I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels back home to Halifax, and we'll talk to you next week.
Take care.